I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. Today, really excited, there's this band, they're called Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. They're back with a new album. It's called Here. And, you know, we're here today. It's a kind of a sweet album cover. You have kind of like the sky and the ocean, but it's diagonal, and then they have a rainbow circle in the middle. It kind of describes the sound through, you know, a picture. It's abstract art that does really well to describe the sound. Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. Well, I feel like if you're really into indie music, you'll probably have heard of this band before. If you're not and you're just hearing us talk about it for the first time, I guarantee you've heard the track Home, especially if you listen to the NFL, because that song was featured in several NFL commercials. And really, if you don't like the track Home, we're relatively certain that you're probably a robot. You might want to go to a doctor, get that checked out, listen to that song. If you don't just instantly love it, you're a robot, go check yourself out at a hospital.
And Alex Ebert, the singer of this band, is or was a robot.
He was a robot. Actually, they came out with an album in 2010.
Oh, yeah?
I'm a Robot, Alex Ebert's former band, or other band.
So I guess they're still doing
stuff.
So yeah, he's definitely shifted kind of his focus towards this band, which is, you know, definitely got that more of a classic folk sound.
Absolutely.
But not, you know, not like a lot of the modern indie folk that you hear where it's produced very extravagantly to sound contemporary and modern. This really harkens back to, you know, the
classic rock, a lot of soul influences.
Definitely.
I get a ton, like, I feel like this album, its sound is straight out of 1970. Like, they just took that sound, and really it was produced in a way to make it sound like
kind of Neil Young.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Yeah. That kind of sound where you have that folk influence, but there's definitely the rock element, a lot of soul, as you mentioned. There's a lot of I almost don't want to say the word religious, but lots of kind of spiritual themes on here. Yeah, exactly, because it doesn't really seem to be associated too strongly with any particular religion, and it's not too explicit. It's not overbearing with it, but that's a lot of the undertones that are there, which at first, you know, for me personally, stuff like that usually makes me kind of uncomfortable, turns me away from things. Yeah, but this actually worked because it's not overly churchy, and also it just feels so comfortable with the sound that they're going for.
It also really complements the mood that they captured and the other theme about this album, which is love. And this band just has a good feeling about them. You know, Alex Ebert, you know, he decided to make Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros after he wanted to change his life. Too much drugs, too much partying, kind of starts over, new band, Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros. So you see a lot of themes about love and just experiencing life and just a general sense of optimism. You know, having some faith-driven lyrics in there actually helps support that theme. Yeah. So that sort of motifing is really good. I got a big kick out of that. Now, Tom, another thing that we didn't mention yet is there's two vocalists here. There's a female vocalist and then a male vocalist, and the male vocalist definitely embodies that sort of folky side of things, the Neil Young, while the female vocalist is more, really, she's more of a soul singer, and you get a lot of, so you get like this soul, like southern rock aspects. It's a really cool aspect of the music.
Yeah, and even when it comes down to the mixing, I mean, you have lots of times where the two are singing together, and they'll be like hard pan split, one in one speaker, one in the other, which is, you know, something that they used to do a lot more in the 60s and 70s, you know, whereas if it was produced to be more like today, they'd both be really loud right in the center, but it's like, even the little things like that, they just got spot on.
You know, they use a wide variety of instruments on this album. You get a lot of just, you know, acoustic guitar, banjo, there's some light keys or organ in the background. There's a lot of, you know, big pounding drums used in some of the builds. And then also that they do a lot with like trumpet accents. Yeah. And then some regular piano in there for some emotion. Yeah, I find that the instrumental palette was something that really complemented just some of the superior songwriting that I heard on this album. Really expansive. These tracks, while there were some shorter, like 3-minute tracks, there's also a really good number of like longer 4 to 5 minute tracks where the songs really have a chance to, you know, grow and develop. Combine this with the fact that this band is playing with numerous styles here. Yeah. You know, you get reggae, you get soul, you get a little bit of ragtime, as I said before. You know, that's a very different style shifting going on with a 9-track album. So you're looking at that and thinking, how did this band do all these different styles and keep the sound that cohesive? It's actually quite impressive.
Yeah, I ended up liking this album the more I listened to it. It's one of those, and I say this a lot, and it's because there are a lot of albums like this, and this is a classic example where you really won't appreciate it until you get to know every song.
Yeah.
You can't just listen to it one straight through, have it kind of gloss over you, get an idea of the sound, and then call your opinion formed. You really have to get to know exactly what they're doing, because as you said, there's so many different styles on here that if you don't do that, then you're going to miss something, and you're not going to get to know the kind of melodies they're doing, the way that the themes flow from song to song. Now, I still felt like this was a little bit of a limiting listen. While they did do a lot with the sound stylistically, and the production was spot on, as we said, those are two of the highlights of this album. I just felt like there were some clearly stronger tracks, and for me, you know, on an album where there's only 9 tracks, where none of them are bad, I really wanted something that was gonna really hit home harder.
Sure. And I actually think that that's maybe a moment, although I think our scores are going to be quite similar, I think that's a little bit of a disagreement that we have. I felt like this album, all the songs were actually of pretty much the same quality, which is actually kind of a criticism I have for it.
Yeah.
Is that I don't feel like, because they jumped around styles, I don't feel like any song is really great, really that mind-blowing. I think they're all good, but I don't really feel like there's any weak tracks either. So I was kind of in between there, but because of that, it kind of limits the score, because while they don't go way down here for me, they also don't go way up here, so it's just like the mid-range quality. I really like some of the songs I hear, and while I mentioned the expansive songwriting before, another side of that is I feel like a lot of these, they have some really good ideas that they present in like different builds, lots of dynamics, and accents that they use with the horns and everything. That's great stuff, but I feel like some of the tracks just kind of felt a little underdone, a little too unfocused. I feel like they could have been, you know, shored up a little bit and really, you know, with a more definitive end. You know, one thing, you know, clearly different styles here, but looking at the Arcade Fire, you listen to those songs are planned out. Every single thing you hear, you're intended to hear. It feels designed, and it feels like you are taken in, and even though you may be in a completely different place from where the song starts, it had a direction throughout the entire track. I don't always feel that here, and that's something that I am looking for in high-quality songwriting. So while I think that some of the songwriting had great ideas and presented some sweet stuff and sweet sounds, I really don't think that they mastered it yet. So I'm interested to see what this band can do in the future. Because Up From Below, their 2009 release with Home on it, I mean, Home was the clear track, but I feel like this really took and expanded their sound a lot. Yeah. And it was a more focused effort. So I feel like it's a stepping stone to something greater that this band might produce in the future. I think I liked it a little bit more than you. I'm going cusp of a really great album. I think it's 80, though.
I'm going 78.
All right, so we like this album. Definitely a recommended listen, especially if you're into just folk or any sort of like throwback sound with good production and presents some new musical ideas. I want to give you guys a little warning, though. We're a little bit against the grain here. This is getting like 60s, like mid-60s scores, you know, in aggregate, and adjusted for our scale. You know, it's not getting a lot of love out there. It's getting, oh, it's okay. But we actually seem to like it a little bit more than that. We're not worshiping it, but at the same time, so I want you guys to take that and then run with it. You know, if you guys listen to it and like it, we want this to kind of be an example of, if you like something, just like it. Who cares what two guys with beards behind a camera say, or what other music reviewers out there say, both video and in text? Who cares what Pitchfork says? It doesn't matter. If you like an album, like it, love it. Listen to the music you want to listen to because it makes you happy. Just try to find reasons to explain it so that when you're communicating with other people, you can share that experience with them. That's what's really most important, and that's what VIMTV is all about. Leave us a comment at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. That's where we talk with you. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
Everybody